Good afternoon. Welcome to the session at the University of South Wales. It's almost 1:30 in the afternoon with us. I'll just introduce myself and my colleague. So I'm Julie, and I'm the Associate Head of the Business School.
Hello, and I'm Jo, and I'm an Academic Manager in the Business School. Really nice to see you, if you can see me.
So what we're going to do for this session is take some questions. If there's anything at all you want to ask, please don't be shy. Just ask away. Absolutely anything to do with studying or living in the university, in South Wales. And then any sort of important links, we'll post them at the end of the session, so you don't have to take notes of anything.
So both Julie and I, as well as being managers in the business school, we both teach as well. I teach a module called Digital Context, which is on our business management undergraduate course, which is all about the digital world and how we use social media and all those sorts of things. And Julie teaches Professional Practice and Employability. Is a final year undergraduate module that helps to prepare you for graduate employment. And I also look after the first year business skills module that looks at all the academic skills you need to be successful on your undergraduate degree, and then potentially what will help you when you go into business. So any questions at all about whether it's undergraduate or postgraduate study or any of the range of courses that we offer in the school, just let us know. So should we have a look at one of our first questions? So we've got a question from Chandler about placements. Are these a real possibility during your studies? Employability is a really big aspect of our undergraduate degrees. So every one of our BAs, we've got a BA in marketing, human resource management, events management, logistics and supply chain management, and I've missed one. Human resource management.
Human resource management.
Most important.
That Jo looks after. Every one of those degrees has got employability actually built into the curriculum itself. So you get the opportunity in your second year of study to study with us for the first term. So that's from September until December. And then for the second term, we actually place you with an employer. So instead of doing taught modules, you'll actually spend 10 weeks on what we call our internship, and that's out in industry. And we support you through all of that application and selection process to link you up with an employer that would be appropriate to your degree studies. Students who want a longer placement in between your second and third year of study, we do sandwich degrees. And again, that's built into an option for every one of the undergraduate degrees. And that's a whole year in industry. And that is typically paid. And there's a whole range of employers, not just in South Wales, but potentially you can do a sandwich year internship anywhere in the world as long as it's an appropriate employer. And if students haven't done the internship or the sandwich year, we're really keen that every student who graduates from the university has some work experience so they can actually apply the theory in the real world. And we know how valuable that is for employers when they're looking to recruit you. So in the final year module, that's the module I actually look after. We've got a professional practice and employability module, and you would do 70 hours work experience as part of that module. So as you can see, there's a whole range of opportunities. It's not just a real possibility. It's something we'd actually, every student would graduate from their degree program with a minimum of 70 hours work experience.
So as Julie has explained, with our undergraduate courses, basically you don't leave the university unless you've done some work experience, which is obviously really important for a business degree. We're really excited about our internship, and we've developed a sort of online platform to support you whilst you're on internship. So although you'll be away from the university and with an employer for those 10 weeks, you will be in contact with your tutors every week. You'll be set tasks. There's lots of online support available, and we'll visit you and we'll oversee your assessments. When it comes to postgraduate, as you can imagine, We don't embed employability skills in the same way into our postgraduate courses. So, for example, on the MSc Human Resource Management, all the modules that you study are actually linked to our CIPD and gaining CIPD accreditation, which is the professional body for HR professionals. So it's much more important that the content is linked to HR, but everything is taught from a practical perspective. So yes, you will be doing the theory, but you'll also be applying it in your assignments to sort of real life situations. And this is the same for all our master's programs. So you're not necessarily going out on placement, but all your assessments are based on case studies, based on real life scenarios. And I guess it might be worth talking about the business exchange at this point.
We've got a new initiative in the university called Exchange, and that's how we engage with small to medium-sized businesses local to the university. So that's any sort of business support. There's a business support clinic. But the big thing about Exchange, which is about to launch in April, is the opportunity for students to actually network and link up with businesses so that they can start applying the theory of their degree into the real world as soon as they start. So Joe's talked about how it's embedded within the postgraduate curriculum, how that's embedded to replicate sort of live scenarios through real life case studies with business. And what we're anticipating through Exchange is at undergraduate and postgraduate level is businesses will come in with issues, with problems, and our students will be able to work on real life briefs. So they'll have briefs from companies, they'll be able to network with people in industry and in business, and they'll actually come up with real world solutions to help those companies start, develop and grow, etc.
So we'll be acting a bit like a consultant for these businesses. So we see this as really exciting.
So we've got another question from Chafundo. Do you accept Commonwealth scholarships? And if I'm not picked by Commonwealth, do we still get a scholarship as well? We've got a number of scholarships in the university. For undergraduate courses, we've got an international scholarship of £1,500 per year. Postgraduate courses are £2,000. Masters of Business Administration course is £1,500. And then we've got a Chancellor International Development Scholarship, and that's £2,500. And there's a whole range of information on the website for that. If you've got any questions, those scholarships are if you're self-funded. But if you've got any questions, when you go onto the course and look at the website, there's a funding link. And if it's not clear whether you can apply for funding, put in an application or a query. There's an email address. I will read it out, but we'll post this to you at the end of the session. So it's international, admissions@southwales.ac.uk. So that's international, admissions@southwales.ac.uk. And I know the inquiries and admissions teams will get back to you within 5 working days to be able to confirm the opportunities for you to apply for scholarships.
I can see, Chafundo, you've also asked about how we support our students. So if I just start by saying is that every course in the business school has a course leader. Now, the course leader is a very important person because they're responsible for that course, and they really do look after the students. They have personal tutorials with them to make sure that they're doing okay. But generally, one of the very special things about the University of South Wales is that we have a very open relationship with our students. We encourage students, to contact us if ever there's any issues. We're not academics who hide away and never want to see our students. We're always happy to try and help, and if we can't help, we will point you in the direction of the central university services that support students. So, for example, on all our campuses, we have an advice shop where you can just turn up and speak to a student advisor at any time. We have advisors that help with money issues, that help with mental health issues, that help with learning issues like dyslexia. So that provision is in place as well, but obviously your academics in the business school are always happy to help.
As well as within our library, some of the central support services to support you with your studies. I can see somebody is particularly asking about what facilities we've got for international students and English language to support you. We've got a study skills centre in the library. That's a completely free and open service to all students who are studying at the University of South Wales, and they can help you with lots of aspects of your studies. So as well as online support and online tutorials, you can also book a one-to-one appointment, which is completely free with a study skills advisor, or you can book onto extra seminars or tutorials and go along either on your own or with a small group of your friends. And they will talk you through any aspect that you may be struggling with as part of your studies. So that may be, how do you write a business essay? How should you structure a report? If you're not quite sure what resources you can access to support your assignments, they can help you with research skills. They can help you with IT skills. If you're not sure how to structure things, even just how to answer a question if you're not quite sure. And if you've got problems with the English language, they'll give you pointers and guidance. We've got particular study skills advisors who support international students where English isn't their first language. So they're very experienced about helping you to make sure you can be as successful as you can in your studies. We've got also an international support unit. There's about 4 or 5 staff headed up by Emma Gwinnett, who's the manager of that unit. And that isn't just about supporting students to fit in with the studies at the university, but we know you'll be making a big commitment, spending quite a lot of time with us in South Wales while you're studying. And a lot of the support that the international unit can offer is to help you find your way around South Wales, places you can eat, places you can live, how you can, different visits you can do. Will you need a driver's license if you want to drive here? Virtually any question you can think about. If you're not familiar with the area, they're there to help you. So not just with your studies, but to help you fit in and feel part of our community and our environment. So I know they do lots of things like trips to the Breton weekends or to the cities, like a trip to London or to Bath, some of our historical cities. They do even games nights, so you can link up with other students and start making friends from the very beginning of your studies. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of we are passionate about our student experience. If you come here, we want you to have a really positive experience, and we've got certainly the staff in the business school and centre and the university really to offer excellent support. And I'd be remiss if I didn't tell you, we're very proud last year to have a What Uni award. This is an award that we are voted by students, and the students voted us the 8th best university in the whole of the UK for student support.
Yeah, definitely. Can you just scroll up a sec? The question has disappeared. I can see that a bit further up, Atika had a question near the top. I can't see it anymore. Okay, so Atika, you've asked, discuss the application process, facilities, teaching environment, assessments. That's a very big and challenging question. So let's break it down a little bit. So if we start with the assessments, it's obviously a little bit difficult to talk about assessments because they're very specific to whichever course that you're interested in. But we've already touched upon the idea that all our assessments in the business school, we're really interested in making them useful for you to apply your theory to real world situations. So we have across all our courses, there's very varied assessments. You might have to write some quite standard academic essays. You might do some reports. You might do presentations. In some of our modules, you might have to write a blog, for example. There are some traditional examinations, but really not that many because we don't see that as the best way to test students. What other assessment methods do we have?
There'll be a mixture. You might do an individual or a group presentation. So you might be given a live case study, and then you have to do some analysis of that case study to look at sort of possible business solutions. So as Joe was saying, as much as we can, you'll get the traditional maybe essays and reports and presentations, but we'll put that in a context of how doing that assessment will develop your skills for real life when you go into the business environment.
So for example, with the internship that we talked about earlier on our undergraduate courses, the assessment is very much based on reflection, because obviously it's important if you're going into a workplace for 10 weeks, you reflect upon that process and what did you actually learn from it, what did you find difficult, what did you really enjoy. And then the final assessment is actually a poster presentation at a conference. So we'll have quite a big internal conference where you get to create a poster all about your internship, and you get to stand by it, and there'll be lots of people at the conference, and they'll come round and talk to you and ask you questions about your placement.
So you've asked a little bit about what facilities and the teaching environment that we have. Depending on whether you're on an undergraduate or postgraduate course, our undergraduate teaching is quite different to some other universities in the UK. Rather than having a very big lecture, some universities will have lectures up to sort of 300-400 students. We've taken a very different approach at undergraduate studies in the business school. So we have 2-hour sessions. So there won't be a big lecture and a smaller tutorial. There'll be a 2-hour sessions, typically with students of 25. And then you'll do lots of activities within that class. So maybe they start off giving you an overview, a presentation to set the context of the session. They might split you up into groups to do some group work. They might send you off to do some research, and then you sort of feed back, or you may work individually or in pairs. So it's a very interactive classroom setting. It's not what you might have experienced maybe before, where somebody sort of just tells you lots of information. So we really like to encourage our students to independently learn and to get involved and to really interact with lots of the discussion. So at postgraduate, it's a similar thing, but instead of a 2-hour block, sometimes you may be as much as 3 hours in the classroom, because you can go into a lot more depth then at your postgraduate study. So facilities-wise, as a business student, there's nothing specialist that potentially you need. We've got things like PC labs, so you can do your assignments, your research, etc. We mentioned earlier about our library facilities, and the library's actually got 24-hour access. So if you're a student who might leave something to the very last minute, there's never an excuse not to be able to get your assignments in. And typically our library facilities, lots of the university central support facilities like our student services, the Study Skills Centre, our finance support, etc., are all based in the library, although they're not open for 24 hours.
Most of the business courses are taught at the Treforest Pontypridd campus, and that's where all the student accommodation is as well. So it's quite a large campus, but it's all in one place. So where you're taught, where your tutors are, where your library is, where student union, sports centre, it's all in one place for you. So many of our students, they live in the halls of residence for, if they're an undergraduate student, for their first year, and then there's plenty of shared houses, student accommodation available then around the university. I'd like to say it's always sunny here. It's currently raining quite hard, but we're sort of in a very green area. We can see beautiful hills. It's a pretty part of the world, definitely.
And it's quite a rural setting around the Pontypridd campus that Joe's mentioned. But if you're looking for more of a city experience, some of our courses are also delivered out of our Newport City campus. And that's actually a very new building that's right in the heart of Newport City. And Newport is a city currently undergoing an awful lot of development, and that just gives a different experience. So if you want the city experience, potentially the Newport City, you might want to look at which courses potentially are there.
And both Newport and Treforest are only 10-15 minutes on a train into the centre of Cardiff, which is the capital of Wales, where there's lots of concerts and sporting events, so plenty to keep you occupied.
You've, Atika, you've also mentioned the application process. That's very straightforward. If you find the course you're interested in online on our website, there's an application button there. Just click on apply. It's a straightforward direct application to the university, filling in your details, etc. And then somebody from our admissions and inquiries will get back to you if there are any queries. And if you've got anything like sort of visa queries, they'll be able to guide you on those sorts of things. So hopefully, Atika, that's helped to give you a little bit of a feel for what it'd be like to study and live in South Wales. So let's have Mohammed, is that? At the DBA. Okay. So Mohammed's interested in our DBA. That's our postmasters, our doctorate course. We haven't got, Mohammed is asking, do we have an online delivery of that course? Actually, it's not an online delivery. It is distance delivery, so there's a touch points during the year, but lots of the delivery for the DBA, it's usually a Friday and a Saturday delivery every 2 or 3 months. And then the majority of the DBA is self-directed study. So it's very much an independent course that you do a lot of independent learning, come in for touch points for guidance of our professors, etc. And they'll guide you on the next stage of your studies. And some of the modules you'll study, you'll be able to look at on the website. And if I'm completely honest, I'm not sure of the cost. I think have a look on the website, or we can look that up for you at the end of the session, and we'll post that information online for you.
But we do accept international students on the DBA.
And if there's specific questions, we can link you up with our course leader for the DBA. That's Professor Martin Rissiart. We can pop his direct address on there for you, his email, and I'm sure he'll be really happy to talk to you in a bit more detail about the content of the DBA course. All right, we'll scroll up and so
assessments.
Yeah. So Georgie was asking about what assessment should we have. As Joe has already mentioned, it varies between modules. We try to make the assessments varied, so you're not doing the same sorts of things. But typically, there'll be written coursework, essays, reports, presentations, and our exam period is at the end of May, so it's at the end of the academic year. You may have 1 or 2 exams, or sometimes you'll have sort of in-class IT tests. So there's a whole range, but we've got some quite innovative assessments, as Joe was saying. I think the biggest thing is we try and link it as much as we can. So the assessment you're undertaking would have some validity when you sort of go out into the real world of work. So we're trying to embed in you skills that will help you, you know, when you start working.
Okay, so Teresa has asked about, she hasn't taken her Ielts yet, and is it okay to send documents and go through the application process now? That would be okay, because what would happen is our admissions, if you were accepted, you'd have what we call a conditional offer, and the condition would be that you pass the Ielts as the appropriate level and that you send evidence of that. So it's absolutely fine to apply at this point, even though you haven't got all the qualifications that you need right now.
Our Ielts for undergraduate courses is 5.5, I think. Yeah, 5.5, and Ielts 6 for masters. If when you do the test you don't quite meet that, we have got pre-sessional courses that happen in the summer. So you can come along to one of our summer courses. That helps you to improve your sort of your business skills, not just your sort of English language and comprehension skills, but from a business context. And students then who are successful on their summer school program, you know, will already be here studying with us. So that's also an opportunity, something for you to think about if you don't quite get the Ielts you were hoping for.
We have a few questions again about applications, one from Clay Toss and one from Georgie. In terms of how you apply, Julie's already mentioned the link that you apply on if you're an international student. If, for example, you were a European student, so you're in the European Union, then you would still apply online, but you would do that via UCAS. Let me just check that that's correct. I think it is. Yes, it is. It is. As I was saying that, I thought, is that right? But it is. Yes, so you'd still apply, but you'd have to apply via UCAS, which is the UK's application system for universities. That's if you were undergraduate. If you're applying for postgraduate, then you don't have to go through UCAS, and you can apply directly to the university, and we will post the links during this chat and after for you to know where to apply.
So we've got a quick question from Julia, who's had an unconditional offer for her MSc in management. So congratulations,
Yay.
Julia. We'd be thrilled to welcome you to the business school for your studies in September, if you choose to join us. And Julia's questions about the master's thesis, how much time will there be to write it and how big this is. This is, at the moment, our MSc management, it used to have, instead of a dissertation, which is what you would call the thesis, previously we had what we call 20 credits business research report that was in replace the thesis, and that would be typically 6,000 words, and you'd get a couple of months to write that. That's been changed this year. So currently we've got 60 credits attached to our thesis, our dissertation. Students get about 4 months to actually work on the dissertation, and that at the moment is 18,000 words. But we recognise from this, that's the first year we've actually introduced the 60 credits to the MSc management this year, and we're not quite sure how well that's going down with students. So we're actually going to be reviewing that during the year, and we may give students in September the option of picking the 60 credits. So if you're really keen to get stuck into a topic, that gives you lots of scope and breadth and depth. But if you prefer to have more taught modules and a smaller research project, we're looking at giving the option of having the smaller 6,000 one or actually the 18,000 one. So watch this space. Dr. Gabor Horvath is the course leader for the MSc management. And if you've got questions, we can put you in touch with Gabor, and then he can keep you up to date on which of those options will go forward in September.
Okay, we have a question here about, is there a chance to do internship during or after the postgraduate courses? As we explained earlier, the internship and sandwich options are embedded in our undergraduate study, but not currently in our postgraduate study, mainly because, you know, the content of the postgrad study is very important, the subject content. But as we mentioned, there will be opportunities to engage with our business exchange as of September 2017, which would mean that you'd be meeting with businesses and you would be carrying out live consultancy, which obviously would be very helpful for employability as well.
We've got a question from Matthew. I see this been asked before, but how realistic is it to work alongside your MSc studies? We've got a number of students who do work alongside their studies. You know, financially they need to support their studies, and they want to sort of balance things with academic and real work experience. We'd say to you to be careful because it is a full-time course. So while you may only be in class anything between sort of 12 and 15 hours a week, there'll be a lot of self-directed study. Your module leaders for each of the subjects will be directing you to sort of research and work, potentially group you'll need to be doing in your own time. For international students, the maximum you would be allowed to work is 20 hours. But what we would say is to be very careful not to, there'll be times when you've got space within your studies to actually fit in part-time work, but particularly if you're coming up to lots of assessment deadlines, it'd be helpful if that was a little bit flexible so you can make sure you focus and give yourself the best opportunity to be successful in your studies. I know that the UK government recommend that students really shouldn't do more than 12 or 15 hours of paid work alongside their studies, because it is a full-time course. So you have to be very focused and very well organised if you're going to pick up part-time work alongside your studies.
As Julie was saying, we accept that people, need to work, and obviously linked to a business course, there's lots of positives, but yeah, it's getting that balance right. It's really important. Our career service actually have a database of part-time employment, and it's certainly worth chatting to them if you come here, because they will be able to tell you employers that are particularly flexible. I mean, we do have employers in the area that take lots of our students, and they're very flexible. If students have exams or deadlines, they're more than happy to say, well, don't work for a couple of weeks and then come back to work. So I think the trick is to get an employer who's obviously quite sympathetic to your studies.
We've also got another question from Chandler about he's particularly interested in placements, and can he get something that he could actually learn alongside his studies that can help pay his fees. Our internships, some of them are paid, but they are unusual for the internship. They are normally, they're not paid, but the employer would subsidise things like travel costs and expenses, things like lunch, what you need to eat, etc. when you're on the internship. The sandwich year is paid, but that's actually a whole year out in industry. So as Joe said, it's identifying an employer who will be flexible. So although it may not be, the employment may not be linked to your degree studies, you can certainly pick up work alongside your full-time studies. Joe mentioned we've got a career service who will often help place students into part-time work. And as you can imagine, there's the campuses, the university's got about 32,000 students. So it's a very big university, with the biggest university in Wales. And there's lots of opportunities for students to do part-time work on campus. So things like our student union are always looking for students to help out. We have student ambassadors who actually help out with things like our open and our applicant days. So there are also part-time work opportunities on campus that you'll be able to ask about.
Okay. Georgie has come back and asked about whether Ielts tests are and TOEFL are compulsory. What will happen is the admissions will actually have a look at your application and see whether you do need to have proof of Ielts. For example, some students in other countries, they've been taught through the medium of English for most of their education. So for those students, they may well not be asked for those tests because it wouldn't be appropriate. So it really depends on what your education history is.
And if you're in any doubt, put in your application and then just put a little note in for the inquiries and admissions team. And when they're looking at your application, if they need extra information, they'll just come back to you and ask. We've got a question. Where was the Zimbabwe one gone? I've just lost that quickly. So Clayton has asked about, I'm in Zimbabwe. I anticipate it's a bit sunnier in Zimbabwe than it is today in South Wales. It's a little bit raining. And he needs to send his documents. You can just upload them. When you put in your application, there'll be a browse button and just upload your documents. But if you have problems, just attach them to an email and send them to the inquiries and admissions team. Make sure you put in your full name and the course you're applying for, and they'll be able to link those documents up with your application. Okay, I hope that's helpful. Yeah. So we're just flicking through some of your questions. Yeah. Some, I think we can explain some more on Toastmasters.
Okay. So Chifundo's asking for more information about the Toastmasters. It does actually depend which master's course that you're applying for. We have a wide range of masters, such as a Masters in Business Administration. We have Masters in Management, Masters in Human Resource Management, in aspects of supply chain, in marketing, project management. So obviously each course is going to have a slightly different structure. But all of our master's courses do involve either a research project or a dissertation. So yes, there will be a research aspect to any of the master's courses.
I think, Georgie, you've got a question about how to apply from a different country. If you want to replay this, we've mentioned that earlier in the session. And then we've got questions about how do you actually apply for the Commonwealth scholarships and apply for the funding and the scholarships. When you go onto the website and have a look at the course that you're interested in studying, there'll be a link there for course fees and funding, and there's a straightforward link for you to a little bit of information you will need to supply. That will go into the inquiries team, and then they'll assess your application and get back to you of whether you've been successful with that scholarship or not. And George has also asked about how long is a semester. For our undergraduate teaching, it's a year long, so we don't actually work off semesters, we work off terms. So the first term is September until the first or second week of December. And then there's a vacation period. So we're just coming up to in the UK, the Christmas vacation period. So this is the last week of teaching this week, and then students don't come back to us until the 9th of January. And then the second term starts this year is January, and that finishes in March. And then there's another vacation period, and then there isn't this year because it depends how the terms fit. But about April and May, that's when it is typically our exam period if you have exams. For postgraduate study,
I can also see that some of you are interested in February start, so we'll talk about that in a second, because that's on a different schedule. So for postgraduate study, most of the modules are taught in 8-week blocks. So at some point you'll be doing 2 modules at a time, so that would be 10 hours in a classroom, and sometimes you'll actually be doing 3 modules at a time, so that will be 15 hours a week in the classroom. In terms of the time frames, it's exactly the same as for undergraduate, in as you start at September and then you normally finish about April, May, depending on the timings of our Easter here in the UK. If you start in February, you do end up doing some work over the summer, but it really depends, again, on which master's course you're on, because some of them are delivered in a slightly different way. But if you start in February, so for example, if you started in February 2017, you would be submitting your final dissertation in April 2018. So that's how long it would actually take you.
Okay. So we've got a question from, let me have a look. So Claytos has asked, what are the work prospects when studying here? We're actually really proud of our employability rate at the University of South Wales. 94% of our graduates are in employment or further study within 6 months of graduation. And this is an actual independent survey that's taken outside of the university. And for some of the courses in particular within the business school, there's actually 100% employability. A lot depends on the course. So the university as a whole is 94%. Within the business school, typically we're always in the high 90s, and some of our undergraduate and postgraduate courses have actually got 100% employability. And from what Joe and I have already spoke to you about, I think that's because so much of our emphasis within our teaching and delivery is actually to prepare you for being sort of managers when you graduate. That's the focus of employability is a big aspect of what we do within the school. So I think that's reflected in our very good employability rate for when you graduate.
Atika's asked about the actual class schedule for MBA. At this stage, if you were applying for September 17, we wouldn't have the actual schedule available. But as I just mentioned, for postgraduate courses, you're taught in 8-week blocks, and you're either doing 10 hours per week or 15 hours per week.
I think for the postgraduate course, it'd be 16 to 8. You tend to study 2 modules alongside each other for the MBA. And there's, oh no, sorry, it's 5 hours a week. You are right, Joe, my maths is, it is actually 2 modules a week for an 8-week block, and there's 5 hours for each module, yeah. So it would be 10 hours a week. Yeah. There's lots of other extracurricular things you can do on campus. So we do things like lots of careers and employability fairs. We get a lot of employers coming onto campus to talk to students about opportunities, what it's like to work in particular industries. So that's just the taught element. There's lots of extracurricular things going on around the university that you could also get involved with.
And we have a very interesting question from Georgie saying, why choose you over other universities? Well, I'm hoping that you picked up from listening to us how passionate we are about the University of South Wales. What we want is for you to come here and work really hard, achieve, graduate and be able to find your place in the world of work, with really good employability prospects. We also want you to have fun. And I think that is actually a special thing about the University of South Wales, is how friendly we are, and how we all have a sense of fun, and we want your learning to, yes, you need to take it seriously, but equally you need to enjoy it as well.
And I can genuinely say that the business school staff are passionate about ensuring you have a positive student experience. And I was actually a mature student. I came to study in the business school 15 years ago. And I liked it so much that I never left. And you'll find a number of the staff who will actually teach you were students of the university previously, and they've had such a great experience that they haven't left either. So there's, I would say we genuinely care about your student experience and making that as positive an experience as we can. And we've already mentioned we've got award-winning student support, and actually we're voted by students to be one of the best universities in the UK for student experience.
And obviously, whichever course you're interested in, if you have a look on our website, you'll get all the specific information about the research that your tutors, you read, you'll be taught by sort of doctors, by professors, by people with lots of industry experience. So you'll be able to have a look at via the actual course website to be able to find out more information about that as well.
We've got a couple of questions from Jafundo about Ielts, because you've already studied intensive English. I would say put in your application, if you haven't done Ielts and the admissions and inquiry team think that you actually need to evidence your Ielts, they'll ask you, so just put in your application. And you've also asked about, is it possible to have one grant scholarship to study at university and pay back through working for the university after your studies? Unfortunately, that isn't something we offer. There are scheduled payment plans you could discuss with the finance team, but typically fees need to be paid, or the majority of the fees need to be paid upfront. But I would encourage you to talk to our finance team. They can talk to you about what flexibility there is in paying your fees alongside your study, but unfortunately it wouldn't be an option to work for us afterwards to pay your fees back.
It'd be good, mind, wouldn't it? But not an option. Matthew has asked a question about additional language courses besides English, such as German, Spanish or French. I'm sorry to say that we don't. It would be lovely if we offered these things, but it isn't something that you're able to do at the University of South Wales.
And then we've got a question from Chandler about the MBA. So our MBA is NAMBER or EQUIS accredited, and you were just wondering why that was the case. Our MBA is a very practical focus, and it gives us a wider breadth. Not being accredited, it actually supports us in taking students from more of a diversity of their background. So the AMBER and the EQUIS accreditation actually limits students and the experience the students need to come in with. So that's one of the main reasons why we haven't got accreditation at this stage.
I mean, it is something that the university has considered quite closely, and will continue to consider. But as Julie said, it does put limitations on the content, whereas we feel quite passionately about some of the modules that we've included are actually differentiators, so make you actually different when you come out with the qualification. But as I said, it's something that we're considering, and we'll keep reviewing it.
So hopefully that's been helpful and answered some of your questions and your queries that you've had today. Be sure to log back in any of the links we've talked about, or potentially the course leader names. We'll post that information for you. Yeah, myself and Jo are really happy to take additional questions. We'll also put our email contact. There may be a little bit delay over the Christmas vacation if you don't get your questions in quickly, but we'll make sure we get back to you, so everything you need to know about coming here to study, that you'll have that information.
I'm saying goodbye as well, but I've just noticed that we've just had a question come in from Eve, which is, when do the classes for the February 2000 intake start? That's actually the second week of February, but you would be come a little bit earlier to have an induction week as well. We've got a whole induction week in February. So the second week of February is actually the induction week for international students. So there's lots of things that you'll want to get settled into, sort of your accommodation, sort of your registration with the health services, etc. And also a big part of our international welcome week is making sure you are happy, settled and comfortable in coming to Wales and coming to Pontypridd, where the campus is for the February start students, and making sure you know all about our facilities in the local area. So when your classes start, there's a whole week of induction activities, lots of opportunities to make friends, meet other students on the course, and then the actual teaching in the class starts the week after. So you do get a week to settle in, and I really encourage you to come for that induction week, because students have told us how really helpful that is in helping them to settle into the university and to make friends before your actual studies start. Not that you can't make friends after your study started, but there's lots of social aspects within that first week to help you to make friends and to settle in. Okay, we've had another question through from Georgie. In terms of your application, as we said earlier, is that the admissions department will let you know whether you need Ielts or TOEFL in your offer. If you do, what you'll be offered is a conditional offer, and you won't actually be officially accepted to the university until you gain those qualifications. You don't have to keep applying. It's just a matter of your application is on hold. You have this conditional offer, and you just have to then get the qualifications, and then you're able to come to the university.
And just to remind you, we do have an online session. If you're starting with us in February 2017, there's an online session this Friday. It's at 11:30 a.m. That's UK time, so make sure you do the calculations of what time you'd need to join us. And that's specifically focused around things like applications, etc., for February 2017 start students. So if you're able to join into that session, they will be able to talk to you much more specifically about February start queries that you might have. So it's been really lovely to speak to you, and we hope we get to meet some of you in person, if not February, if you're joining us then, but
yes,
later on in September.
And whatever you choose to do, we wish you luck with it.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll see you in the University of South Wales, but if not, the best of luck for your studies going forward in the future.
Bye-bye.
Okay.